Let's go ahead and get started. My name is Dave, and I'm one of the owners and operators of Homeschool Tracker. And first of all, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know there are so many different things you could be doing on a Tuesday night, and we really greatly appreciate you spending some time to learn a little bit more how to use Homeschool Tracker effectively in your homeschool. So just a little bit of background about what we're about. And here at Homeschool Tracker, not only do we want to create the tools and the products to allow you to be more successful in your homeschool, but we also want to give you the training and the resources to use those tools effectively. And that's really what webinars like tonight are really all about. So again, thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. A few housekeeping notes. We are recording this webinar, and as soon as the recording is ready, we will send each attendee an email with a link to that so that you can check that out. And we are usually set to go for about an hour or so, and then we'll have plenty of time at the end for questions and answers. And so any questions that you might have, we will certainly cover those at the end. So let's go ahead and dive in. I just want to spend a minute just to talk a little bit about what we'll cover tonight. First, we'll talk a little bit about where to find help within Homeschool Tracker. Then we'll dive into the interface and give you a little bit of a tour. Then we'll talk about subjects and courses and the differences between the two and how to set those up. Then we'll discuss assignments, which are really the heart of all of your record keeping in Homeschool Tracker. And we'll talk about lesson plans, which are a very popular and time-saving feature. Then we'll discuss reports and how you can generate those reports as PDFs. We'll talk specifically about the daily task list tonight, and then we'll talk a little bit about report cards and transcripts as well. Then we'll discuss workflows, and what I mean by workflows is really just how you use Homeschool Tracker on a day-to-day or week-by-week basis. And then again, like I mentioned, we will have plenty of time at the end for Q&A. So let's dive right in. First of all, where to find help. I think probably the best place to find help when you're using Homeschool Tracker are things just like this webinar. We do this about once a month during this time of the year. And we do that more often when it's the start of the school year. There's also a ton of recordings of these different webinars. If you go to our website at homeschooltracker.com, you go to the support tab and then click on Training Center. You'll see all of the upcoming training events, and you can click on there and register for those events. You'll also see recordings of all the past events, getting started webinars like this one, as well as a lesson planning webinar that we did specifically just on lesson planning. So if you are interested at all in lesson planning or using lesson plans, I definitely recommend checking out the recording of that webinar. And like I said, I think it's really the best place to get help because we do it live and you can ask any and all questions that you might have. And so it's really a great resource. So definitely check those out. And obviously you're here right now, so we really appreciate that. Other places to find help are our Getting Started tutorial videos. So if you go to our help site, which is just help.homeschooltracker.com, right here at the top, you'll see our Getting Started video guide. And it's 11 parts, and each one of these is just a few minutes long, so you can just jump in and go right to the video that you're most interested in. It takes about 30 minutes or so to watch all of them, but definitely you can check that out. And then also a great resource is this help site right here. So again, at help.homeschooltracker.com, you can find this really comprehensive help guide for the program. And it's really set up as more of a reference guide. So one trick that I like to tell people is from any screen within Homeschool Tracker, let me just jump over there real quick. So let's say I'm here in Homeschool Tracker, and I'm going to just go to the calendar view. From any screen within Homeschool Tracker, you can just click on this help button here in the top right, and it'll take you directly to the corresponding help page for that screen. So here we are on the help site, and this is the help page for the agenda calendar view. And it really has anything and everything I ever wanted to know about the calendar view, along with relevant links to those areas. So really a helpful resource. One other trick I like to show people is the search feature here in the help guide. So you can simply search for, let's say, days off. And I will be guided right here to how to enter in days off in Homeschool Tracker. So again, here's a page specifically about setting up days off within Homeschool Tracker. So again, a really comprehensive guide. Pretty much all of the features within the program are documented thoroughly in the guide here. So definitely check that out. And last but certainly not least, email support. You can email us anytime at support@homeschooltracker.com. We respond to each and every email that we receive, usually in 1 to 2 business days or so. And we're here for you guys. Any questions you might have, whether it be about using the program, about specific features and tools, or perhaps about setting up your workflow or how you plan to use the program, we can help with all of that. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out at support@homeschooltracker.com. Okay, so let's jump into an interface tour. So I want to jump over to the program here. Let me just close some of these windows. And I'm just going to go back to our home screen here. Now, first off, you'll notice when you log into Homeschool Tracker, you have this menu. And this menu you can access at any time by just clicking on this down arrow here. And the menu is broken up into 5 different sections. You have the schedules and planning section here in the top left, the students section in the lower left, the reports section right here in the middle. This has all of the reports that you can generate. And in the top right is the manage list section, which we'll cover. And then in the bottom right is the your account section. So starting up here in the schedules and planning section, this is everything related to, well, schedules and planning. So things like the agenda, which is really just a list of all of the things you or your student need to accomplish in a given day. And you can view that both in the calendar view or in the list view. This is where you'll find your lesson plans if you're using lesson plans. This is also where you'll find the shared lesson plan library. Now below that is the student section. This is where you'll find the main student list. This is where you can set the grade levels for your students, as well as you can see the grading overview, which is where you can see each and every grade that your student received over any given time period. Below that is the lesson plans and presets page, which we'll cover a little bit later, as well as the transcript supplemental page, which allows you to add other things that you want to add on to your student's transcript. Things like awards, extracurricular activities, standardized tests, that sort of thing. And then again, right here in the middle, this is the reports section of the menu. So each and every one of these reports is generated as a PDF file that you can download, print, or send. And this is where you'll find things like the attendance report or the daily task list, which we'll talk about later, where you can generate report cards and transcripts. It's all going to be right here in the reports section. And then over here on the top right, this is the manage lists section. And I would like to refer to this as more of a maintenance area of the program. So what we mean by that is you're probably not going to be in and out of this section of the menu on a regular basis, but it's definitely where you go to set things up, where you'll go to add things like add a new course or add a new subject or add items to your library. And that's really why we call it manage lists, because each one of these items here is a separate list of other items. So for example, the activities list has all of the activities that you might have in your homeschool. The course list has obviously all of the courses that you have. And so that's why it's really more of a maintenance area, because you're probably not going to be editing or adding new courses on a daily basis, but this is where you would do it. Then finally, in the bottom right is the Your Account section of the menu. This is where you can change your program options, where you can set up your school profile, modify your subscription settings, create other user accounts, that sort of thing. Okay, so that's just a quick overview of the menu of the program. We'll dive into specific areas here in just a moment. So now what we want to do to start off is to talk about subjects and courses in Homeschool Tracker and really the difference between the two. Now, in Homeschool Tracker, we like to think of subjects as really broad areas of study. So things like math, language arts, history, science. And then we think of courses as the specific area of study within a subject. And a course typically might last a semester or an entire year. We kind of use course or class, synonymously. So a course might be called Algebra 2, and that would belong underneath the subject of math, for example. Or a course could be called Composition 1, which would belong to the subject of language arts. Or a course might be called Physical Science 1, which would belong to the subject of science. And really, there's this hierarchy for a reason. When you go to generate, say, a transcript, generally speaking, you want all of your related courses to kind of fall under a category, and that category would be the subject. And so that's why we organize it in this way. You'll have your subject first, which would be math, language arts, history, science, etc. And then below each one of those subjects, you would have all of the specific courses that pertain to that subject. So let's take a look at what that looks like within the program. So first, I'm going to jump over to the subjects list over here in the Manage List section of the menu. Now, as you'll see here, I have 4 subjects currently. I have history, language arts, math, and science. And you'll also notice that there's not really a whole lot to do here. There's not a lot of data, and partly because subjects are really kind of just a container for courses. There's not really a lot of settings that you can set up in a subject. So for example, if I open by double-clicking the history subject, I could change the name of it. I could set it to core or elective. I see a list of all the courses that are underneath this subject, and I can make it active or inactive. But really, otherwise, not a whole lot to do here. If I wanted to create a new subject, I could go to Action, choose Add, and create a new one. But otherwise, that's pretty much it here in the Subjects section. But however, if I jump over to Courses, so let's go to the Courses list, you'll notice already that I have a lot more courses, first of all, and there's a lot more data here. There's a lot more different settings for each course. So let's open up Ancient History 1 right here. And you'll notice that I have the name, Ancient History 1. I have the subject that it belongs to. I can have a code for this course to reference. I can set how many credit units it's worth. I can determine how I want those credit units calculated. I can specify a specific grading scale for this course. I can choose whether or not I want to have weighted grading turned on. I could add notes to this course, and I can set it to active or inactive. So a lot of different settings to tweak here for each course. And that's obviously by design. One course might have a certain grading scale, while another course might have a different grading scale. One course might be worth 1 credit unit. Another course might be worth half a credit unit. And so that's why you can get very granular on a course level to set up each course differently. So let's go ahead and create a new course. I'm going to go to Action and choose Add. And I need to give this course a name. I'm going to call it Reading 1. Now, for Reading 1, that's probably going to belong to the subject of Language Arts. And I'm going to stop right there because as you notice, as I was typing in Language Arts popped up here. And that's because this is what we call a Smart Entry field. And what a Smart Entry field does is as you type, it searches the corresponding list for anything that matches what you're typing. So in this case, it's searching the subject list. Now, if I didn't know the name of the subject, I could simply type in a blank space, and I would see a list of all the subjects available. So I can go ahead and select Language Arts. Now, you'll see these Smart Entry fields throughout the program, so that's why I wanted to spend a second just to talk about how that works. Now, again, I have all these different settings here. I'm going to just keep them kind of the default for now, and then go ahead and I'm going to click Save. I will now refresh this here, and you'll notice that I have a new course, Reading 1, that belongs to the subject of Language Arts, and that course is ready to go. I can now create assignments in that course, and they will all be categorized properly. Okay, so that's how subjects and courses are set up and why also it's important to know the difference between the two. Now, a few things about subjects and courses. We recommend that you don't use the exact same name for both a subject and a course. This can certainly be confusing if you do. So for example, if you have a subject called Language Arts, I would recommend not having a course also called Language Arts. Again, you want the naming to match what the course is about, and you want it to be much more specific. So again, subjects are kind of broad, and then courses are much more specific. So you might want to say Freshman Language Arts or Language Arts 101 or something like that, just so that it's more specific and you can easily differentiate between the subject and the course. Now within the program, to kind of save space in certain areas, we show the subject and course together sometimes, and we separate them with a slash, /. So if you see that slash, that shows kind of the break between the subject and the course. If you don't see a slash, then really you're just looking at a subject. So let me just show you what that looks like. If I jump back to the agenda here, I'm just going to create a new assignment. And for subject course, you'll notice that it says subject/course. That's because we wanted to just kind of consolidate the subject and the course into one field here. So if I just hit the blank space there, I can see all of my subjects and all of my courses. And so, for example, I have history right here all by itself. That's just the subject of history. Below that, I have history / ancient history 1. If I selected that, I'd be selecting the course ancient history 1, which belongs to the subject of history, which is why it's kind of denoted with that /. So just to give you a quick kind of a lesson on how that works, that / shows both the subject and the course all in one field together. All right, so now let's talk about assignments. Now, assignments in Homeschool Tracker are really anything that we give our students to complete. Now, that could be a lesson, it could be homework, it could be a lab, it could be a field trip. Literally anything could be an assignment. And the reason you would use an assignment is because you want to track it over time. You want to say whether or not it was completed. It might be something that you want to grade. And so that's why we think of assignments as really the heart of all of your record keeping in Homeschool Tracker. So they're right here in the middle, assignments. And they can come from a couple different places. You can create them individually or in a series, and I'll show you how to do that. Or they can come from lesson plans, which are basically kind of a predefined list of lesson plan items that can become assignments whenever you want to schedule them. And so a lesson plan will go through a scheduler, and it will create assignments. Now, as you use those assignments and as you enter information into them, as you mark them complete, as you add grades to them, etc., all sorts of reports and data can be pulled out of that. So, for example, that's how we create report cards and transcripts, all from assignments. You can generate attendance reports from assignments if you're using the automatic attendance feature. You can generate the daily task list, which is kind of your list of all the things you need to do. And all those other reports that we looked at, most of them can all be generated because of you using assignments. And so again, that's why we like to think of them as the heart of all of your record keeping in Homeschool Tracker. So here's just a quick overview of an assignment entry screen. And we actually just saw this when we were looking at the subject course example. Now, when you're creating an assignment, really there's only 3 things that are required. You need a student, you need a subject course, and you need a date. Those are the only required fields. Now, obviously, the more information you enter into these other fields, the more things you can do with that over time. So, for example, you can set an activity for an assignment. And an activity can be, again, anything like a lesson or a test or a quiz or a field trip. Those are all different types of activities. You can create a resource for the assignment. The resource is really referencing something that's in your library, whether it be a book or a video or a website. The PLC here, that stands for page, lesson, chapter. So you can put information in there like, oh, chapter 12 or pages 24 through 36. Below that is a directions field where you can enter all sorts of rich text with links and formatting. The date field, like I mentioned. You can set a start and end time for your assignments if you like. If you don't set a start and end time, it'll just be created as an all-day assignment. You can enter in the points possible and points earned if you're using grading for the assignment. You can enter in the time spent on the assignment. You can also choose whether or not you want this assignment to be able to be rescheduled or not. And then finally, you can mark the assignment complete. You can have a student mark it complete, you can have a teacher mark it complete, or both. And when a teacher marks an assignment complete, a number of things happen. So when an assignment is marked complete by a teacher, attendance can be recorded if you have auto attendance enabled. Grades are generated if you're filling out the grading fields. Time spent can be calculated if you're using start and end times. And from all of that information, lots of reports can be generated. So let's do a little demo here. What we'll do is we'll create single and multiple assignments. We'll add grades to them and we'll mark them complete. And we'll do that both from the calendar view as well as the list view. So let's dive back in here. I am here in the main menu. I'm just going to go to the calendar view of the agenda. And again, remember the agenda is literally just a list of all the things that you or your student need to complete in a given day. Now, the calendar view obviously looks like a calendar. This is set right now to the work week, Monday through Friday. I can change that to show the weekend as well. I can look at just one day, be a month, kind of in a horizontal view, or excuse me, a list view, and then also kind of a horizontal view. But I like to keep it on this work week view. I find that to be pretty helpful. So what I'll do is I'm just going to create a single assignment. So I'll go ahead and click on Add, and I'll choose Assignment Single. So again, here's that Add Assignment screen here. And I'll choose my daughter Campbell as the student. And for subject course, I'm going to choose Ancient History 1. And for activity, again, these are all smart entry fields, so I can just hit the space bar to see a list, or I can start typing in, to find what I'm looking for. This is going to be a lesson. For resource, I'll just pick one of these resources from the library. And for page, lesson, chapter, let's just call this, we'll call this lesson 1. Okay. And for the date, let's just choose today. And let's say this started at 8 a.m. and went to 10 a.m. And it was worth 10 points, or it is worth 10 points. So let's go ahead and click on Save. And there you go. Now I have an assignment for Campbell for today from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And it's right here on my agenda. Now I can edit it if I want to by just double clicking. I see a little preview of it here, and I can click on More to do the full editing here. So let's say today kind of came and went, and Campbell did the assignment and she got 8 out of 10 on it. So I want to go in and I want to grade it and I want to mark it complete. So again, I'll just go ahead and open it up here. And now we'll enter in 8 out of 10. And then I'll mark it teacher complete. Let's check this box. And you'll notice that when I did that, I calculated this grade of 80% for 8 out of 10. And then I'll go ahead and click on Save. So a couple of things happened when I click Save, right? This got a little bit darker to show that this assignment has been marked complete. And also, this Campbell present showed up here. And this is an attendance record. And the reason it showed up is because I have auto attendance enabled in my program options. And what that does is it basically says, okay, if your student has a completed assignment on a given day, we're going to go ahead and assume that your student was there that day. So let's create an attendance record for them. And obviously, you can change that. You can turn it on or off or change the settings. But it's really helpful so that I don't have to then create separate attendance records, especially if I need to keep track of attendance for various reasons. So definitely a handy feature there. But you'll notice, what we just did is we created a single assignment. We went in and we graded it and we marked it complete. Now, when we think about workflows or how people might use Homeschool Tracker on a day-to-day basis, a lot of folks do just that. They may start the morning by creating all the assignments, or the night before creating all the assignments for the next day, getting them all lined up in their agenda, going through their day, and then at the end of the day, going back through, marking things complete, adding grades to them, moving things to the next day if they didn't get to it, that sort of thing. And a lot of folks do just that, and Homeschool Tracker can work perfectly in that very kind of basic scenario. The other thing that this works really well for is, for example, if you want to just log all the work that you completed in a given day. So even like tonight, it's 8:30 at night, and let's say I'm just kind of going in here and just adding in all the things that we did do today. This is great if you're kind of an unschooler, or you might not know exactly what you're going to complete in a given day. You can go in after the fact and just enter in all of the assignments, all the things that you completed that day. And then Homeschool Tracker really becomes more of a logging and tracking tool and less of a planning tool. And that's totally fine. It's perfectly acceptable. And you still get all the benefits of the reports and just the data storage and all of that. So again, a lot of different ways to use Homeschool Tracker. And we'll talk about that throughout tonight, just kind of pointing out different ways that we've seen that people use it. Okay, so that's how you would create a single assignment, mark it complete, add grades to it. I now want to show you how to create multiple assignments, kind of more than one assignment at a time. So if I click on Add and choose Assignment Multiple, now I'm presented with the Add Multiple Assignments wizard here. And it's a wizard because you kind of follow through this process here, and on these various tabs here at the top. So starting out here, first of all, I can choose more than one student. So I can create assignments for more than one student at a time, which is nice. I'm just going to keep it set to Campbell for now. And for subject course, I'm going to choose Ancient History 1, and we'll do some lessons like before. I'll just pick a resource. And then for the start and end times, I'm going to just do 8 to 10 a.m. like the other one. And these will also be worth 10 points. And now I'm going to continue to day and date. That'll take me to the the next tab here in the wizard. Now, I can set how often I want this assignment to occur. So I want to have it happen every day. Excuse me 1 second. There's just a beeping sound. So I want it to happen every day, and I can set that up right here. Now, the other thing I can do is I can create the start date. So I'm going to have that start the next day. I'm going to have it start tomorrow on the 26th. And I have two choices here. I can choose between continue creating items until an end date, or I can continue creating items until PLC pattern is exhausted. I'm going to choose continue creating items until PLC pattern is exhausted because I want to show you what that does. And now I'll continue to PLC. Now, again, PLC stands for page, lesson, chapter. Now, if you think about that field and you're creating multiple assignments, most likely the page, lesson, chapter will not be the same for each assignment that you're creating. And so, for example, you might have the first one is lesson 1, the second one is lesson 2, the third one is lesson 3, and so on. So what we've done is we created these auto increment features within this wizard here. And you can do a 1-part auto increment, 2 parts, or 3 parts. We're going to start with the 1 part because it's the easiest to understand. And so, for example, if you remember, the last assignment we created was for lesson 1. So what I want to do is I want to fill out the rest of the week, starting with lesson 2, and I'll go through lesson 4, basically. So let's see. The leading text then will be lesson. And I'm going to start with lesson 2 because I already have lesson 1 created. I'm going to end with lesson 4. And I'm going to increment by 1. Okay? I'm not going to have any trailing text. So I'm going to continue to preview now. And what that does is it's really just going to allow me to preview what I'm about to create. So here we go. I have 3 assignments that are going to be created for Campbell. They start at 8 a.m. and go to 10 a.m. The first one is on Wednesday, because I said to start tomorrow, Wednesday, and it's lesson 2. The second one is on Thursday, it's lesson 3. And the third one is Friday, and it's lesson 4. So you can see how that auto increment worked here, right? For each assignment that it's creating, it's incrementing the PLC by 1 because of how I set that up in the auto increment. So obviously I'm just doing 3 here, but you can imagine if you're doing 20 of these, right? It would be a huge time saver. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of these because remember, this is just a preview. I haven't created these yet, so I can choose which ones I actually want to create. But I'm going to select all of them and then choose accept selected items. And so now when I do that, it goes ahead and it creates those assignments right here on my agenda. So here we are back on the agenda, and you can see Campbell has lesson 2 on Wednesday, lesson 3 on Thursday, and lesson 4 on Friday. So very quickly, you're able to create multiple assignments, with patterns that can sequence up or down or however you want it to work. And again, really powerful features here. So when we think about workflows, again, you can imagine somebody coming in on Sunday night or Monday morning and creating the sequence of assignments for their week ahead, and then going through their week or each and every day and then marking those complete and grading them along the way. So that's how you kind of create single and multiple assignments here in the agenda calendar view. I want to show you the list view as well. But before I do that, I just want to give you a quick overview of the calendar view here. So obviously it looks like a calendar. We talked about these different views that you have here. In addition to that, up here at the top, these blue tabs, these are different filters. So for example, I have a student filter. I can choose which students I want to view in the calendar. Right now I'm viewing all. I can just choose specific ones if I like. I can choose what types of items I'm viewing in the calendar. So all sorts of different ways to manipulate the data to view it the way that you want to. Additionally, I can export this to a PDF. So if I click on that, it generates a PDF file here of exactly what I'm viewing in the calendar. And this is great because I can print this out, I can save it, I can email it to somebody. Really helpful feature. I have navigation tools here to move forward and backward on the calendar. And then down here at the bottom, I have this show full day option. So if I click that, the calendar now starts at midnight and goes to midnight. I can then switch it back to show school hours. And the school hours are set up in your program options. I have mine from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., but it helps, kind of keep that view a little bit more manageable. So that's the agenda calendar view. Now let's jump over to the list view, the agenda list view. Now, just based off the name alone, I want to stress that the agenda calendar view and the agenda list view, it's the same data. You're just viewing it differently. So in the calendar view, you're viewing it as a calendar, and in the list view, you're viewing it in a list, kind of like this. So what you see here are all of those same things that we just saw on the calendar. So I have my attendance record here. This is the attendance for 425. I have lesson 1 here on the 25th, lesson 2 on the 26th, lesson 3 on the 27th, lesson 4 on the 28th. The nice thing about the list view is that you can see a lot more data all at once. So I can quickly at a glance just see, oh, okay, all 4 of these assignments are worth 10 points. This one's marked complete. She got an 80% on it. You just have much more visibility into the data. The other nice thing about it is you can edit more than one item at a time. So if I wanted to edit these 3 assignments, I could just select them and then choose Action, Multi-Edit. And let's say I want to go ahead and grade these. I will give her a grade of 9 out of 10, and I'm going to mark these complete by the teacher, and then click Save. And so there you go. Now all of these, these 3 assignments all have 9 out of 10, 90%. And it also created attendance records for those 3 days for me. So again, really powerful features here in the list view. The other nice thing about the list view is you can sort and group the data however you like. So if I wanted to sort it by date, I can click on this column. I can go in reverse order if I like. I can also group items by the type. So if I take one of these columns and drag it up here, I've now grouped items by their type in this case. So all my assignments are together and all my attendance records are together. That can be really handy if you have multiple students and you want to group by student, for example. And so again, really powerful features here in the list view. So just to kind of quickly go over this, on the left-hand side, this green section here, these are all the filters. So much like those blue, or I think they're blue or purple filters on the calendar view, I can specify my date range here. Right now I'm just looking at this week. I can choose what students I want to view here, the types of items, etc. So lots of really great options here in the agenda list view. So between the list view and the calendar view, you kind of get the best of both worlds. The calendar view is very familiar and it's kind of easy to see things in terms of where they exist in time. And the list view is really easy to see things in relation to one another, right? So between those 2 views, you can really have really great insight into your data and be able to manipulate those assignments or attendance records really effectively. Okay, so just to recap here on assignments, we created single and multiple assignments. We added grades to them and we marked them complete. And we did that both from the calendar view as well as the list view. Okay, so let's move on to lesson plans now. So lesson plans are a really cool feature that can save you a lot of time. I will say though that lesson plans are certainly optional. We talked about a couple workflows already that don't require lesson plans. And lesson plans are a little bit more advanced, as you'll see, but definitely not 100% necessary right away. Especially if you're new to Homeschool Tracker, I would almost recommend kind of just getting familiar with using assignments and individually before diving into lesson plans. But that being said, I want to make sure you understand how they work and what they are. So lesson plans are a sequence of items that have not yet been scheduled as assignments. So if you think about assignments, we just created a bunch of them. Now, think about creating lesson plans that don't have a date or a student attached to them. So basically, they're just a list of items. You could call them kind of assignment templates, so to speak, and they're in a specific order. And when you want to go and schedule them, you can create assignments out of them. So this is perfect if you want to plan everything out in detail all at once, or if you have a predefined curriculum, for example. So the nice thing that I mentioned is since they're not tied to a particular student, that means they can be reused over and over again throughout your homeschooling career. So for example, you could create a lesson plan for freshman biology for your first student. And when your younger student takes that course, you can just pull up that lesson plan and use it for that student as well. Now, the other nice thing is these can be shared and imported using our shared lesson plan library. So this is great if you're using kind of an off-the-shelf curriculum that might have a lesson plan that goes along with it, or if, for example, you're part of a group or a co-op and you're using a similar curriculum, you could have one person create the lesson plan, upload it into the shared lesson plan library, and share it with everybody else. So let's take a look at lesson plans, because I think it'll make much more sense when you see them in action. What we'll do is we'll see an example lesson plan. Then we'll create a very simple one. Then we'll import one from the shared lesson plan library. And then we'll schedule those lesson plans and create assignments from those lesson plan items. So let's jump back over here. And I'm going to go to the lesson plan screen. Now, if you are brand new to Homeschool Tracker, you won't have any lesson plans in your account yet. You'll need to either create one or import one. But just for this demonstration, I'm going to show you an example one. So I'm going to hit the space bar here to pull up a list of my lesson plans. I'm just going to open this Abeka arithmetic one. So first off, you'll notice that the lesson plan screen here looks a lot like the agenda list view, right? And that's intentional. We use a lot of the same kind of paradigms throughout the program just so that it remains comfortable. So you have your filters here, you have all the items here, the columns, etc. Now, the other thing about it is each one of these items, each one of these lesson plan items looks a whole lot like an assignment, right? And in fact, if I open one, you'll notice that this looks like an assignment, but it's missing a few things. It's missing a student and it's missing a date. And that's what makes it a lesson plan item and not an assignment yet. Once this lesson plan item gets scheduled through the scheduler, which we'll show you here in a minute, then it will create an assignment out of it. And that's really where the power is, right? So this is almost like an assignment template, right? If I know that on the first day of this lesson plan or of this course, we're going to do lesson 1 of this book and this subject and all of those things, I can just create that in advance, right? And when I'm ready to do it, I can simply just take this template here and schedule it for whatever student I want at whatever day or time I want, and it's ready to go. So you'll look at this lesson plan. The other thing about a lesson plan is all of these items are in a very specific sequence or a specific order. So on day 1 of this lesson plan, we're doing lesson 1. On day 2, we're doing lesson 2. On day 3, lesson 3, and so on. On day 12, down here, we have an oral test that's worth 100 points. And also on day 12, we have another test that's also worth 100 points. And then we kick back into the lessons 13, 14, 15, 16, and so on. And if I scroll all the way down, you'll see that on day 171, we're doing lesson 171. And in total, there are 202 items in this lesson plan. So this is really a full year's worth of arithmetic lessons. And it's already set up here. It's ready to go. All I have to do is schedule these as I need them. And my students will have the assignment and kind of know exactly what they need to be working on. And so that's really what a lesson plan is and why it's powerful, because I could do all of this work here of creating these items ahead of time. And then as I go through my school year, I can just select the ones that I want, schedule them, and keep moving forward. I don't have to spend a lot of time throughout the year entering in data and that sort of thing. And then again, like I mentioned, since these don't have students or dates attached to them, these are accessible at any time. So when my next student is ready for first grade arithmetic, I just pull this up and I schedule these items for that student. So again, really powerful stuff when it comes to lesson plans. But let's go ahead and create a simple plan just so we can see how that works. What I'll do is I'll click on Add, and I'll choose Add Multiple. Now, first off, you'll notice that this looks a lot like the Add Multiple Assignments wizard. And again, lesson plan items and assignments are very similar in how they operate. So that's why these look familiar. Now, it's going to default to me adding items to the plan that I'm working on. But if I want to create a new plan, all I have to do is just type in a new name in here, and it'll create it for me. So I'm going to call this a sample plan, and it will be, we'll put this on Ancient History 1, and these will be lessons. And let's go just pick a resource here. And then now we will continue to day numbers. Now I'm going to start on day 1, and I'm going to increment by 1. And I will then continue to PLC. And again, we can do a PLC auto increment here. I'm going to call these lesson 1, And let's end with lesson 15. Now let's continue to preview. And you can see here I have 15 days worth of lesson plan items going from lesson 1 all the way to lesson 15. So let's go ahead and select these and then choose accept. And now I just need to load that plan here. Let's call it the sample plan. And here you go. I have a 15-day lesson plan with 15 lessons in it. And it goes from lesson 1 to lesson 15. Now let's say I want to add a test at the end of this. I can simply go to add single. And this will be for ancient history 1. I'm going to call this a test. And this will be worth 100 points. And I want this to occur on day 16. So I'll go ahead and save that. And now I have a test on day 16 worth 100 points. So very quickly, I created a 16-day lesson plan, with differing lessons for each one, and then a test at the end. So I could certainly continue this process and fill out an entire year's worth of Ancient History 1 lessons. If that's of interest to you, I definitely recommend checking out that lesson planning webinar that we did, because we show you a lot of tips and techniques for doing that really efficiently. And also we do an example where we took a kind of an off-the-shelf curriculum that you could buy, and we took the lesson plan out of that book and kind of transposed it into Homeschool Tracker, and we showed you how to do that really quickly as well. So definitely check that out if you're interested. Okay, so now let's go ahead and import a lesson plan from the shared library. So I'm going to go to shared lesson plans here. And now if you want to just see a list of all of the shared lesson plans, you can enter in a blank search here and hit go. And it'll show you, whoops, let's try that again. There we go. It'll show you a list of all of the lesson plans in the shared lesson plan library. And we have, at last count, over 1,000 lesson plans in here. And most of them, as you can see, are all kind of based off-the-shelf curriculum. Now, these are all user-generated. They're uploaded by other Homeschool Tracker users. So they might not be exactly what you're looking for, but they could certainly be a good start. And you can obviously then modify it for your use. So again, lots of really great resources here. And again, if you're part of a group or a co-op and you're working on things together, you could certainly create a lesson plan and share it on here as well. But I'm going to go ahead and search for reading. And I'm going to grab this Usborne First Reading Level 1 lesson plan. Let's click on that. And I get to see a preview of it here. And so you can see, this is a 15-day lesson plan and has different resources and different PLC for each one. So somebody took the time to kind of input all this and share it with everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Prepare for Import. So first thing I need to do is give this a new lesson plan name for my account. I'm going to call it Reading 1. And then I can select the items that I want to import. But before I go ahead and import them, I'm just looking here and I noticed that the subject course is Language Arts just by itself, which is just the subject, Language Arts. But I want these to be part of Reading 1, the course that we created earlier. So I could obviously import these and then multi-edit them later and assign it to that course. But rather than do that, I'm just going to change it right now. So with all of these selected, I'm going to choose Action, Multi-Edit, and I can change the subject course to whatever I like. So I'm going to change it to Reading 1, and then hit Save. And now you'll see that the subject course is Language Arts / Reading 1 for the course. You'll also notice where it has an asterisk and it says New for these activities and resources. It says that because I don't have those items in my account currently, but what it'll do is when it imports these, it'll create those for me, which is great. So with all of them selected, I'm going to choose Accept Selected Items. And there you have it. Now we're back in our account on the lesson plan screen, and I have the Reading 1 lesson plan loaded up, and here it is. So now that shared lesson plan is in my account, and it's ready for my use. So let's go ahead and use it. What I'll do is let's schedule the first 5 days of this. So I'm going to select the first 5 days of this lesson plan, and I want to schedule it for this week. So with those 5 selected, I'll choose Action, Scheduler. Excuse me. I'm going to schedule these for Campbell, and I'll choose Continue to Day and Date. I want these to happen every day. We'll start at 10 and go to noon. And I'm going to have the start date. I'm going to have it be Monday of this week, just so I can fill out this week as an example. And I'm going to continue until all selected plan items in the plan are used. So as you noticed, I selected 5 plans, and I'm having the start date be Monday, intentionally so that it schedules just this week. I could also choose a date for it to end, but I'll just choose the selected items. Now I can continue to preview. So, as we're doing this, you see kind of the continued use of these paradigms, like continue to preview, accept selected items. These are all kind of how this program works. So here's the preview. You can see that on day 1 for the lesson plan, that's going to be scheduled on Monday from 10 to 12 a.m. From 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And this all looks good. So I'm going to select all of these, and then choose accept selected items. Okay, so now those have been scheduled. So if I want to see them, I'm going to go over to my agenda on the calendar view. And there you have it. From 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. every day, I have a reading 1 assignment now. And you'll notice each one of them is different. This was day 1 of that plan, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. So you can see the power of a lesson plan where, we can have each one of those lesson plan items have unique information for that, a lesson plan item. And as soon as I want to use it, I simply schedule it and it creates an assignment out of that. Now, the lesson plan items are still there. The lesson plans are still there. I can use them again for different students or whatever. But I've now created assignments using those as kind of the template. So really a powerful feature. And so when you think about workflows, a lot of folks might have lesson plans for each course. And each week they could load those up, select the items they want, and schedule them for their week ahead. Now, that scheduler is pretty basic, right? You choose which items you want, and then you hit schedule. But we have a more advanced scheduler as well that allows you to schedule more than one lesson plan at a time. So I want to show you that next. So I'm going to jump over to the lesson plans and presets page. Now what this does, it has Campbell selected here, and so it's going to load up all of the lesson plans that I'm currently using for her. And these 6 she's actively using. I'm going to go ahead and click on edit because I want to add in that reading 1 plan. So I'm going to go check the box here for reading 1. And then I'm going to go to the preset screen. Now, presets are really cool because what they do is they designate a preset time and day during the week when you want a specific subject and course to be scheduled. So you'll notice this calendar here, there's no dates on it. It's just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I have these blocks, these preset blocks here. So from 9 to 10, Monday through Friday, I have Ancient History 1. From 10 to 11, I have spelling, and so on. So what this does is when I run the scheduler, I can choose the preset option, and it will schedule the lesson plan, and it'll create an assignment at the preset date and time that I've specified here. So what I want to do is I'm going to create a new preset, and the presets are organized by subject course. So I'm going to choose reading 1, and I'm going to have it from 3 to 4 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'll go ahead and I'll click save. So there's my new preset down here. Next, I'm going to go to the scheduler here. And so, like I mentioned, this kind of advanced scheduler allows you to schedule more than one lesson plan at a time. And that's really cool because right now I have 7 lesson plans that Campbell's using. I'm going to just check all of them. And I'll go to continue today and date. So when I'm choosing this, what I can do is I can select the preset option here. So it'll use those presets that we just looked at. And I can choose a start date for when I want to start scheduling. I'm going to choose Monday of next week. And then I can choose an end date or until all remaining items in the lesson plan are used. I don't recommend doing that. I just want to schedule just 1 week at a time right now. So I'm going to go to Friday. So what this is going to do when I click continue to preview, it's going to take all 7 of those lesson plans. It's going to go day by day for all of next week, and it's going to schedule those lesson plans according to the preset times that we have set up. So let's go ahead and continue to preview. So there you go. I have 45 items here ready to be scheduled. And you'll notice that Ancient History 1 is set for Monday from 9 to 10, spelling from 10 to 11, arithmetic from 11 to 12. If I go down to 3 to 4 p.m., you'll see I have Reading 1. And you look over here at the activities and the PLC, and these are all different, right? Because it's pulling the next lesson plan item and it's scheduling it for the preset time. So the amount of work that it's doing right now, the amount of time it's saving me by pulling the next lesson plan item that my student needs and scheduling it at the time that I want, is really pretty amazing. So with just a few clicks, I was able to generate 45 new assignments. So with these all selected, I'm going to choose Accept Selected Items. And so now it's going to go ahead and create those assignments and schedule them on Campbell's agenda for next week. And so when we think about workflows, you can imagine somebody, who has a lesson plan for every course and has even preset times for those courses. They could come in here on a Sunday night, a few clicks, and schedule all of their stuff for all of those different courses for the entire week. So let's go to Calendar View, and we're going to jump to next week. And there you have it. These are those 45 assignments now on Campbell's agenda for next week. And they're all very unique, right? Each one of these has a lot of unique information that was entered at some point into those lesson plans. And now it's on her agenda for her to complete next week. So again, really powerful tool. Okay, so just to recap, let's see, we looked at a sample lesson plan. We created a simple one. We imported a plan from the lesson plan library, and then we scheduled the lesson plan, both using kind of the simple scheduler as well as the more advanced scheduler with presets. Okay, so now just briefly, I know we're running up on the 1 hour mark here, but just briefly on reports, okay? Now reports can be created as PDF files that you can save, print, or send. And the daily task list is a great report that a lot of folks use on a day-to-day basis. It allows you to generate a PDF, perhaps print it out and show you kind of what your student needs to do each and every day. Transcripts and report cards, these can be generated as long as you have at least one completed and graded assignment in a course. So if you think about that, if you generate a transcript and you don't have any grades or anything completed for the time period that you're generating it for, nothing's going to show up, because transcripts and report cards are all about grades. And in order for them to appear on the transcript or report card, you need at least one assignment that's graded and completed in a course for it to show up on that report. So let's go ahead real quick, and I want to show you the daily task list. So I'm going to go to daily task list here on the menu. And there's a lot of options here because the daily task list allows you to create this list of items in a lot of different ways, so you could show like completed chores, incomplete chores, whatever you want, and it's very customizable. I'm going to leave things kind of standard for now, and what I want to do is I want to create the daily task list for next week for Campbell. So I'm going to go ahead and generate that report, and I'm going to click on Pick Up Report, and that will create a PDF file. And so here is the daily task list for next week. This is a PDF that I could just print out right now. And you'll notice that it kind of mimics our agenda in this case, but it includes all of the information that she needs for each one of those assignments. So this is great if I wanted to print this out, put it on a bulletin board, or put it in a binder, whatever it might be. Especially if she doesn't have access to a computer, or if I just want to hand her a piece of paper to be the reference for the week or for the day. That's what the daily task list is. Okay. So when we think about workflows, and obviously we've been talking about workflows throughout the evening, but just to kind of recap on those, kind of on the basic level, you can certainly create and complete single assignments on a daily basis, right? There's a lot of users doing just that, and Homeschool Tracker works perfectly for them. That also works really well in reverse, right? Kind of as a tracking and logging tool. At the end of the day, you can go in, create a single assignment for each of the things that you did that day, and just kind of move on. And you can still then generate those report cards, those transcripts down at the end of the year, whenever, because you're tracking all of your work that you're completing in the same place. And obviously, you can go a little bit more advanced with your workflow, using lesson plans, perhaps, maybe a couple lesson plans here or there, or kind of full blown and using a lesson plan for each course that you might be using. And again, a lot of folks might have presets, and they may go in perhaps on a Sunday night, set up those lesson plans, schedule them for the week, and then they're good to go. I will say one thing, it can be very tempting, whether it be using lesson plans or creating perhaps multiple assignments. It can be very tempting to create your entire year or schedule your entire year right off the bat. And I would caution against that for a number of reasons. The main just being that it kind of limits your flexibility when you've scheduled the entire year. You can obviously reschedule things and shuffle things around, but the beauty of homeschooling and Homeschool Tracker, for that matter, is that you can be flexible, right? And so if you end up working faster or slower, whatever it may be, you want to be able to adjust. And so we recommend just kind of scheduling 1 week or 2 weeks at a time. And then that way it's a little bit easier to reschedule, and then you kind of know kind of where you're at all times. Okay, so that does it for the kind of formal portion of our presentation tonight. We'll certainly open it up for Q&A now. I did see a question come in from Lisa. She asked, how did it know which lesson to start on? The next one that wasn't marked complete yet? Great question. Lisa's referring to the scheduler, the kind of advanced scheduler, when I ran that and it created those 45 assignments for me. She's asking, how did it know where to start? Like, how did it know where we were within that lesson plan? I'm going to show you that here because it's a really cool feature. Let me just go back to the lesson plans and presets page, because you can get kind of a quick snapshot of how that's set up. So when we load the lesson plans for Campbell, you get this little dashboard here, and it shows you all of her active plans. And these numbers here, these are the total number of items in that plan and how many she has left. So for example, for TutorSoft Math, there are 213 items and she has 64 left, and it was last used on May 5th. May 5th was the last time we had scheduled that lesson plan for her. Now, that's just a little dashboard. To get a little bit more specific, I can go directly to the lesson plan itself. So let's just look at reading 1, right? Because that's the one where we scheduled the first 5 days, you remember? So here on the lesson plan, what I can do is I can go to displaying. So these filters here, I can choose which items I want to display. And right now I'm viewing all items, but I can also choose used by student. So if I choose Campbell, I can see the status of each one of these items for Campbell. So this is where it gets really powerful, because for each student that you have in your account, it'll track where each one of those students is currently in the lesson plan. So for Campbell, if I go ahead and click OK here, it adds a column for me. It adds a column called used, and it says used date. And you'll see here that day 1 was already used, and it was used on April 24th. Day 2 was used on the 25th, and so on. And so it was you all the way up to day 10 was used on May 5th. So this used column here, where it says yes for used, is really important, because when the scheduler goes to reach out to the lesson plan to find the next available lesson plan item, it's going to look through here and be like, okay, this is used, this is used, this is used. Boom, this is the next unused lesson plan item. Let's grab that one, and we're going to schedule it where the user told me to schedule it, right? And then it's going to mark this one as used. So that's how it knows where your student is at any given time in the lesson plan. Now, this comes up not fairly often, but it comes up occasionally, where you want to change the used to status. So let's say you schedule a lesson plan and then you deleted the assignments for some reason, or you needed to schedule it again. and you can't go back. You're like, I'm trying to schedule day 1 and it's saying that it's already used. Well, you can always change the used status. So if I wanted to change this from yes to unused, I can simply select it once here. Oops, select it and then choose action, set used status. And I can say that it's used or not used and by whom, which is, really powerful. I could do that for multiple items at a time as well. So I could change the used status for the entire lesson plan and say not used. And it would, I'll check the box for Campbell. And now, boom, all that goes away. And so kind of all the history of keeping track of where she is in the lesson plan is gone. So now the next time I schedule it for Campbell, it's going to start with day 1 again. So obviously, you don't really want to mess with that unless you really know what you're doing, but it is certainly possible that it may become necessary. Hopefully that answers your question, Lisa. Susanna's asking, what is weighted grading? So weighted grading, excuse me, is if you have a course where certain types or certain activity types are weighted differently than others, you will need weighted grading. So for example, if let's say all of your homework is 50% of the grade and let's say your midterm is 25% and your final exam is 25%, that would be weighted grading, because it gets a little bit more complicated than that, because essentially, you can do this a number of different ways, but weighted grading is helpful because let's say all of your homework assignments are worth 10 points and you got 10 out of 10 on all of them and you did literally 100 homework assignments, really, right? So that's 1,000 points, if you're just going on points alone. And then your final exam is 100 points. Well, 100 points versus 1,000 points is very different, right? If you were just looking at points and they're all weighted equally, that final exam worth 100 points versus all of your homework worth 1,000 points would mean that the final exam is really only worth like 10% of the grade, right? And that's not what we want in this case. We want the final exam to be worth 25% of the grade. So what you can do is basically set up weighted grading so that even though the homework amounts to, say, 1,000 points or something, it's really only worth 50% of the total grade. So hopefully that makes sense. I will show you real quickly how that is set up here. So let's say for reading 1 in the course list, if I wanted to set up weighted grading, I could simply check the box for use weighted grading. And then I can determine which activities I want to be worth what percentage of the grade. So if this is like way too advanced, then you probably don't even need it, right? This becomes much more important in high school in particular. And at that point, you'll probably understand why you need it as well. So let's say I want all my lessons to be worth 50%. And then I want the final exam to be worth 25%. And then I want the midterm to be worth 25%. Right? I could set that up here for this particular course. And that's the other nice thing about having courses is each course can be set up differently. And that's why we have that set. So that's how you kind of set up weighted grading. Hopefully that makes sense. And again, if you have any questions on that, I believe the help guide here, right here. If I click on help and then go to weighted grading here, there is literally an entire page here just devoted to what weighting graded is and how to set it up. So definitely, lots of great examples here too of what that might look like. This is much more technical than my brief explanation, but certainly much more comprehensive as well. So hopefully that answers your question, Susanna. Okay, Melissa is asking, I'm thinking of scheduling out to the end of the curriculum simply to determine forecast when we'd finish. If I do schedule out all 40 lessons, for example, in a curriculum and we don't get an assignment completed, will the rescheduler bump everything out one lesson so that it shows my new end date of when we'll finish the whole lesson plan curriculum? Yes, it will. If it is only 40 lessons, for example, then, that seems manageable. If it's 200, 500 even, or more, then it's kind of extreme, right? Because every time you miss a day, you'll need to move 500 items forward one day. And it seems kind of silly to have to do that. You certainly can, but it's not always, really worth the effort. Whereas you know, if really your goal here is to forecast out when you might finish, I would just recommend you just look at your lesson plan occasionally and, load up that used status and see, oh, we're about halfway through this lesson plan, and it's May 1st, and we've got about 2 months left. So yeah, we're probably in pretty good shape. If you need much more specificity than that, then yeah, you could certainly schedule it out to see and move things around. But again, when that happens, and as we all know, when you're homeschooling, things happen, kids are sick, you decide that you want to take a day off, or you go on vacation and people come visit, whatever it might be. Now you have to juggle and move all of these things forward or backward. And it might not just be that one course or that one set of lessons, it might be everything, right? So just keep that in mind when you're looking at that. Let's see. So Lisa is asking, can you create individual logins for each child? If so, what does their view look like? And if they mark assignments complete, then does the parent have to confirm that, or is it the same as if the parent did? Great question, Lisa. So yes, you can create individual logins for a student or other teachers for that matter. In order to do that, you go to the subscription and users page right here. And down here, you'll see all of your different students. And if you want to create an account for them to actually log in, so for example, I have Campbell here already has a username called Campbell Test. I created that previously, but for Manning, he does not have a username. So if I wanted to create one, I think all I do is double click on it, and I can choose active, and I can create a username for him and a password. And then this is the cool part. I can set the permissions for what I want him to be able to do. So, for example, I want him to access the library and appointments and chores, but I don't want him to be able to generate reports. I can choose all of these things, right? For assignments, I can choose if I want him to be able to add and edit all fields. Most people would say maybe no, right? You don't want him to be able to do that, but it just depends. So you can determine, what your student is able to edit or not edit. Now, the marking the assignment complete is really just a checkbox for your reference. So if the student marks it complete, nothing really changes. Nothing. It does not confirm the same way that is if the parent did. All it does is it gives you another way to kind of screen what the student has marked complete or not. So for example, if I go back to the agenda, these filters up here, I can look at completion status, right? So if I wanted to just view things that the student had marked complete, I could just choose that. So let's say you're the parent, the teacher, and you don't really, the agenda is set. Your students are kind of off on their own doing their thing, and you don't really want to be bogged down in looking at all of those items on the calendar, but rather you just want to log in and see what the student had finished. And if it's part of their job to mark things complete as a student, then you could just log in and be like, okay, I just want to view things that are completed by student, and I'll look through here and just work on those things. So right now it looks like, oh, they didn't do anything today, we better talk about that. Or maybe they just forgot to mark it complete. So that's really what that's for. It doesn't actually record the grade or anything like that, not until you as the teacher mark it complete. So hopefully that's helpful. Suzanne is asking, how often do you update the software? We're updating it continually. In fact, we just rolled out an update last week. And one of the things is a lot of the updates we do are kind of behind the scenes. They're kind of done to take away bugs, to fix bugs. They're done to make the system faster. They're done to allow for greater flexibility. We do release new features occasionally as well. So this calendar, for example, was released kind of in the middle of last year. and it added a number of new features, including this export to PDF button here, which was not available before. So that was a great new feature that was released. So yeah, there's always new things being worked on. And, if you email us at support@homeschooltracker.com with any feature requests, we keep track of all of those. Now, obviously, we can't promise that we'll be able to complete, give you the requested feature that you're looking for. And obviously, we prioritize them based off of, how many people are asking for those sorts of things and how difficult or easy it might be for us to actually do it. But yes, there is continual development happening on the program itself. So hopefully that is helpful, Susanna. Okay. So any other questions? While we're waiting to see if there's other questions coming, I forgot to mention this earlier, but for all of you that have been on the webinar tonight, thank you so much. And we do this every month right now. And so for the folks that stick around, that kind of go through the whole hour with me, I know it's a long time, we like to credit your account with a free month of Homeschool Tracker. So what we'll do is when we're complete here, we'll pull a report of everybody that was logged in tonight and go into your account and basically extend your expiration date out an extra month just on us, And if you're not a user yet, then just we'll reach out to you, and we can give you a coupon or something for a free month of Homeschool Tracker, because we know that for our users to be successful with the program, it really takes a commitment, right? Commitment on your part and a commitment on our part to help you through it, because I know we all know that the software itself has a bit of a learning curve, and that's why we do webinars and training events like this. And so you showing up tonight and kind of putting that effort forward of, spending time with us to learn the program really means a lot. And so that's why we like to reward you with a free month. Okay, it looks like some more questions are coming in. Bobby's asking, can you use the program on mobile? Is that in the works? You can use it. It's not quite as full-featured as it is here on the desktop, but you can definitely use it. It's probably best, for just viewing things and maybe doing small edits, like marking things complete, that sort of thing. But kind of doing like heavy editing and that sort of thing on mobile is just a little clunky, and that's something that we're working on as well. It's not really an easy problem to solve. This is kind of a pretty full-featured program, so to try to pare it down to fit on a mobile device and to have all of the navigation and everything as part of that is certainly a challenge, but it is something that we're continually working on. Okay. Susanna says, you have amazing customer service. I sent in a question and was answered almost immediately. Thank you. Thank you, Susanna. Great to hear that. Let's see. Lisa is saying, can you show a little of how to adjust things if you end up not doing a lesson or even full day that's already? So I think Lisa's asking about rescheduling, basically. Yeah, let's definitely take a look at that. Let me just turn this back on here. So let's say you need to reschedule something, right? We all know this happens. I'm going to go to this week here because there's more items. Excuse me. So the easiest way to reschedule something is from the agenda calendar view, simply clicking and dragging things around, right? So if I want to move this assignment from here to here, boom, did it. Now, obviously that's great and all, but what if I want to move this entire day over? And what if I want to move all of these days over? I can't easily do that from the calendar view, right? So that's another great advantage of the list view. So if we go to the list view and let's go to next week, here are those 45 assignments from next week. And let's say Campbell is sick on Monday, right? And so what we want to do is we want to bump everything forward a day. So I'm going to go ahead and select all. So I'm selecting all 45 assignments, all 5 days of the week, and I want to push it forward one day. So I think, I'm not sure who asked this earlier, but for those 40 lessons, if you miss a day, you'd have to select all 40 lessons and push them forward a day. Certainly doable. But that's also why, we like to just work with 1 week at a time, because, you might have 45, 50, 60 plus assignments on a particular week. Now, if you are, if you scheduled your entire year and it's like January and you want to move everything forward a day, it's going to be challenging, right? Because you'll literally have hundreds, if not thousands of assignments that you'll need to bump forward one day. So again, this is part of why we like to just kind of work with a week or two at a time. So let's say she was sick on Monday. I want to move everything forward one day. I'm going to select all 45 of these and I'm going to choose action, reschedule. Okay. So what I'm going to do is right now, the start date for these items is May 1st. All I have to do is just move that to May 2nd and hit continue to preview. So what this does is it's showing me the existing date here, Monday, and the new date, Tuesday. Existing date, Tuesday, new date, Wednesday. It's pushing everything forward one day. So all the things from Friday are now moving to Monday and so forth. So I can go ahead and select all of these and then choose accept. And now if I go back to the calendar view, you can see this visually. Monday is now free, Campbell was sick, and everything got pushed forward a day. And if I go to the following week, you'll see that Friday is now on Monday. Now let's say she's sick again. She's sick on Tuesday. And rather than push everything forward another day and kind of start falling behind, I want to just push forward Tuesday's assignments to Wednesday and kind of double up the work on Wednesday, right? So I can do that as well. If I go back to the list view, I could select just Tuesdays. So that's the second. I can select, let's say she's sick on the second here, sick on Tuesday. I can just select just those and choose action, reschedule. And now I'm going to change the start date from the second to the third and hit continue to preview. And so now the existing date is Tuesday and the new date is Wednesday. And then down here in green, you'll see, oh, it's saying existing item. Basically, it's calling out some conflicts. It's like, hey, you have a bunch of stuff on Wednesday already. Are you sure you want to do that? And it's like, yeah, I want to make sure we catch up. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of these and then choose accept. And so now if we go to the calendar, you'll see that Wednesday is pretty jam-packed. She's got extra work to do. And we get caught up by Monday, so we didn't get pushed back another day. Now, to take this one step forward, let's say, obviously this is a lot of work that she has to do on Wednesday, and maybe she won't get it all done, but maybe she'll get three-fourths of it done. As I go ahead and mark those complete, I'll see which ones are left over, and I can reschedule those accordingly for the following day, or kind of spread them out, however you like to do it. So again, rescheduling is certainly possible, and it's relatively easy to do, especially if you're just working with like a week or two at a time. If you're working with months and months of assignments, it can certainly be more challenging. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. Again, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. Again, we were recording this, so when that's ready, we'll go ahead and send you an email with a link to the recording. We'll also send you a link to a survey. We'd love to get your feedback on this webinar and find out from you if it was helpful and if there's other topics you'd like for us to cover. And again, too, like I mentioned, we will certainly credit your account with a free month of Homeschool Tracker. So thank you again so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon. Take care.